Excuse me, and good morning. Welcome to the Livingston Parish News Morning Show. It is 8 o'clock. We do apologize for being late. As I go through the traffic, you'll probably understand why I'm late. It is the first day of school in Livingston Parish. Took a little while to get to the office this morning, then had a little bit of a network issue. We have worked through it. Here I be. Hope you join us this morning. We do, again, apologize for being late. My name is McHugh David, publisher and editor of the news. We are on Facebook, LinkedIn, YouTube, Instagram, and Twitter. There it is. We also publish these stories at www.livingstonparishnews.com/podcast. Not these stories, I'm sorry. These shows, as well as long-form podcasts. We recorded 2 yesterday. We do apologize. Congressman Garrett Graves had a schedule switch. So he joined us for an afternoon podcast yesterday, and he did not come on the afternoon show. We did not do the afternoon show because I was getting over to the parish council after I finished wrapping up with him. And the parish council dragged on until 10 or 11 o'clock last night, so we did not do a post-council show as we normally do. Again, we do apologize for being late this morning. Let's dive right into it, okay? And it's just a busy, busy morning in Livingston Parish. Heavy delays all over the Denham Springs area as these kids get back to school, especially on Hatchell Lane and down in the Jubin Road area. Also heavy delays on 16 and Watson on the north and south side of the high school. Heavy delays in Walker on Burgess in and around the high school. Heavy delays in Livingston. Looks to be clearing up. For your normal traffic, intermittent delays on 12 westbound, not too bad. Intermittent delays on 190. Heavy delays after you hit the 10-12 split on I-12. Weather today is, it's currently 86 degrees. It's going to be a hot one today, folks. Probably over 100 by the end of the day. 77 degrees is your low tonight. Pretty hot one over the weekend. Small chance of rain on Sunday. No chance of rain on Saturday. So let's jump right into it. Lots happened yesterday. We wrapped up qualifying. We had a very long parish council meeting. We did a podcast in the morning with Mr. Jamie Seal of Quality Engineering talking about Gravity Drainage District 1. If you're interested in drainage and what all goes into that process, it was the feature for Thursday, and then we turned it into a cast if you'd rather listen to it. Again, those are free at www.livingstonparishnews.com/podcast. We also got together with, as mentioned, Congressman Garrett Graves in the afternoon. We talked about a lot of different topics. We talked about the studies on the Amite River, the projects those could lead to. We talked about duplication of benefits. We talked about opportunity zones. Be on the lookout for more information about opportunity zones. There is a meeting next week in Baton Rouge surrounding the idea of opportunity zones. We have 3 tracks in Livingston Parish. We'll be interested to see how those are marketed and what is done with them over the lifespan. Now, let's get into I would normally leave it up to you, but I can't see your comments. So we're going to jump into qualifying first. I'll read through all that. And we have several unopposed, and we'll talk about that. And then we're going to jump into last night's parish council, which was a bit of a doozy. So yesterday qualifying ended at 4:30. Returning to office in Livingston Parish will be Leighton Ricks, parish president, who ran unopposed, clerk of court Jason Harris, who ran unopposed, and coroner Ron Coe, who ran unopposed. 4 members of the Livingston Council were also unopposed: John Wascom of District 4, R.C. Bubba Harris of District 5, Tracy Girlinghouse of District 7, and Shane Mack of District 9. In the state legislature, 3 representatives from our area remain unopposed as well. That would be Miss Valerie Hodges, Clay Schexnader, and Senator Eddie Lambert, who has the majority of the south part of the parish. So those who will be running in the Senate 6th District, Rufus Craig will be running against Mac Bodie White. That district has a lot of the northern part of the parish. Both of those gentlemen are from Baton Rouge. For the Senate 13th District, you have J. Rogers Pope of Denham Springs, Edith Carlin of Denham Springs, and Devin Cavalier of Denham Springs. For the Senate 18th District, Eddie Lambert, as mentioned, running unopposed. For the House 64th District, Valerie Hodges, Denham Springs, is running unopposed. For the House 71st District, Lori Calais of Denham Springs, Jonathan Davis of Walker, Ivy Graham of Denham Springs, Buddy Mincy Jr. of Denham Springs, and Robert Poole of Denham Springs are your contenders. For the House 81st District, it is Clay Scheck-Snyder of Sorrento. House 95th District, Sherman Mack of Albany and Robin Perro of Walker. For the Livingston Parish Sheriff, you have Jason Ard of Denham Springs and Walker Bo 22 Wesley of Watson. For Clerk of Court, Jason Harris is running unopposed. For Livingston Parish Assessor, you have Brandon Browning of Denham Springs and Jeff Taylor of Denham Springs. For Livingston Parish Coroner, you have Ron Coe of Denham Springs. For Livingston Parish President, you have Leighton Ricks of Denham Springs, also both of them running unopposed. For District 1, Parish Council, Jeff Ard of Walker and Julius Craig of Walker. For Parish Council District 2, you have Kyle Hoot Parker and Gary Frog Talbert, both of Watson. For Parish Council District 3, you have Maurice Scooter Keene of Denham Springs, Brian Ross of Denham Springs, and Shannon Sloan of Denham Springs. For Parish Council District 4, you have John Wascom of Denham Springs. For Parish Council District 5, you have R.C. Bubba Harris. And for Parish Council District 6, you have a race here, as Jeff Averett will not rerun for the seat. You have Derek Babcock of Denham Springs, Muriel Laws of Denham Springs, Steve McDaniel of Denham Springs, and Gerald McMorris, also of Livingston. Parish Council District 7, Tracy Girlinghouse is running unopposed of Walker. Parish Council District 8, Randy DeLatte of Maurepas, and Barry Hardy of Livingston. Parish Council District 9, Shane Mack of Albany. 21st Judicial District Court, Brian Abels of Denham Springs, and Ernie Drake of Springfield, and William Scott Dykes of Hammond. For the Board of Secondary Education District 6, you have Vicki August of Prairieville, Clara Hart of Baton Rouge, Ronnie McMorris of Baton Rouge, and Gregory Spears of Springfield. For Constable Justice of the Peace Ward 8, you have Gerald Buck Mack of Holden, Leisha Robert of Holden, and Troy Wagner of Holden. For French Settlement Police Chief, you have Kerry Mosby of French Settlement. For Livingston Board of Aldermen, one seat will be voted upon. You have James Jimmy Neeson of Livingston and Robert Stewart of Livingston. For Killian Board of Aldermen, you have 2 seats available, and it looks like they will be filled by Caleb Atwell of Springfield and John Henry of Killian. And for the Springfield Town Council, who also has 2 seats, it looks like they will be filled by Chad Morello and Marty Starkey. So there will be no runoffs in those seats. So that concludes the Livingston Parish ballot. There are statewide seats that you will be voting for coming up here on October 14th, with the runoff vote coming up on November 16th. I'm pulling up the statewide qualifiers as we speak, just so you kind of get an idea of where those ended up, and then we will jump into that doozy of a parish council. So for governor, a lot. Ralph Abraham with a Baton Rouge address, Oscar Omar Dantzler of Hammond, Patrick J. DeGuet of Riceland, Rayne, Louisiana, John Bell Edwards, this is the governor's mansion, Gary Landry of Metairie, Patrick Livewire Landry of New Orleans, Manuel Leach of Natchitoches, M.V. Vinny Mendoza of Ponchatoula, and Eddie Risponi of Baton Rouge. For lieutenant governor, you've got Willie Jones of New Orleans, Billy Nungesser of Belchase, and Rao M. Upu of Prairieville. For Secretary of State, you have Kyle Ardwan, Baton Rouge. You have Gwen Collins Greenup of Clinton, Thomas J. Kennedy of Metairie, and Amanda Jennings Smith of Bastrop. For Attorney General, Ike Jackson Jr. of Plaquemine and Jeff Landry of Broussard. For Treasurer, you have Derek Edwards of Harvey, Louisiana, Teresa Kinney of New Orleans, and John Schroeder of Baton Rouge. For Commissioner of Agriculture and Forestry, you have Marguerite Green of New Orleans, Charlie Greer of Natchez, Mike Strain of Covington, Peter Williams of Baton Rouge, and Bradley Zonbrecker of Egan. Commissioner of Insurance, you have James Jim Donelon of Metairie and Tim Temple of Baton Rouge. and then we get into our local races. So there you go. There's the full list of those who have qualified. A reminder that next Thursday's paper will be completely dedicated to the election, who your electorates will be, talking about them. We also have some fee renewals for fire districts. We also have some millage renewals and constitutional amendments. Lots of voting information in next Thursday's paper. Please keep an eye out for it. We'll be working hard on getting all of that put together for you. So last night, parish council, tons of fun, let me tell you. But it was a very interesting conversation surrounding the Premier Concrete dormitory issue in Watson. There were sort of two concurrent. There was one proposed ordinance as well as a resolution. We're going to talk about the resolution first. So the resolution, as proposed by Mr. Gary Frog Talbert, who represents the district where Premier Concrete is located, was a letter to be sent to parish administration, and demanding is the language that he used, that the administration send Premier Concrete back through the entire commercial permitting process. A lot of people spoke last night. The end result was a 5-4 vote in favor of the resolution. Maybe that's a Freudian slip. So the yeas were Talbert of District 2, Keene of District 3, Jeff Ard of District 1, Girlinghouse of District 7, and Mack of District 9. The nays were Wascom of District 4, Averett of District 6, Lobel of District 8, and Harris of District 5. So the timeline here, real brief, is that in September of 18, a family partition was created on a lot that is adjacent to Premier Concrete. That was an affidavit was signed that it would just be a home site for a daughter, apparently. It was then that the residential permit for the dormitory was then applied for that lot. Somewhere in January or December of 2018, January of 2019, construction began. In March, it was brought to Mr. Talbert's attention, or Councilman Talbert's attention, who brought it to the administration. The administration inspected the site, discovered, issues. So then called in the fire marshal, the parish's inspectors, and those sorts of things, and they started going through, I guess you would call it a normal permitting process. What Talbert was upset about, and the reason he brought it back up, was that according to Talbert, in his discussions with the parish president, Leighton Ricks, he had said that he expected them to go through the full and normal rules for commercial permitting process. The things that Talbert said had not been done were signage, commercial signage out front, those big white signs that says a commercial development is proposed for this piece of property. There was no advertising, and they did not go through planning, and they did not go through a public hearing at the parish council meeting. Last night there was a lot of conversation. A lot of people wanted to say, let's just call it what it is. It is a dormitory for migrant workers. And whether or not that seems to be true, it was established that shower stalls and ventilation units and sewer was all being prepared for. It can hold up to 46 people. It's a large building. It's a multi-million-dollar complex. Anything that houses 3 individuals or more that are not of the same family is considered a multifamily dwelling and is considered commercial under the parish ordinances. So Premier Concrete's attorney showed back up again, Mr. Landreneau of Baton Rouge, and first he said that the issue was political, saying that Talbert only brought it back up because he had an opponent. Well, he first saw it in March, and then according to Talbert, he brought it back up because the promise that was made to him that the rules would be followed was not, and there was no signage, no public hearing, nothing of that nature. Mr. Landreneau continued to say that it was political and brought up Mr. Talbert's new office building, for which Mr. Talbert self-reported in 2018, and will be going before the Planning Commission because there is no zoning. So it's not planning and zoning. It's just the planning commission at the parish in September. So from there, Mr. Landreneau then pivoted and said, well, this is all about, racism and people against migrant workers. To which the parish council, several members told him, no, none of us have brought any of that up. We just want him to go through the proper channels and the appropriate process. It should be noted that resolutions, which this letter is a resolution. The letter will be sent to administration. It's non-binding. The administration doesn't have to do anything with it. Anyway, so it ended, the night ended on a vote, 5-4 vote, pretty controversial. And that letter will be sent in the coming weeks to the administration, demanding that they send it back through the permitting process. The secondary issue was brought up by Mr. Maurice Scooter Keene, who has a proposal on the table that these any time that a commercial or residential permit, any kind of permit, is determined to be fraudulent or misissued, that structure or that project would have to go all the way back to the beginning of the commercial permitting process and go back through, and he's willing to discuss fines, jail time if they discover that it is fraudulent, those sorts of things. He said you got to have some kind of punishment to make sure that people do it. If it's just a $0 punishment and a slap on the wrist, people will continue to do as he said, which is ask for forgiveness, not permission. And as Mr. Talbert and Mr. Keene continued to say, that's just not the way Livingston Parish politics can continue to operate. So that went on. That was just an introduction. They'll have to have a public hearing on it and then a vote. And it still only passed 7-2. The dissenting votes on that one were John Loscombe of District 4 and Jeff Averett of District 6. So they were both they both voted to even introduce against introducing that ordinance. It will come up at the second August meeting here. That would be the 22nd. August 22nd will be the public hearing on that. So for the time being, we will see where all of that goes in terms of how we'll be touching base with the administration, how they intend to respond to the letter, if at all. As mentioned, resolutions are non-binding, and we will see what kind of language they come up with over the next 2 weeks for Mr. Keene's resolution. So, like I said, and that was just one piece of the puzzle. Poor Mr. Bubba Harris just can't get his grinder pumps on the agenda. The ordinance committee did not meet last night because the agenda was not posted on the front door in time. So they did not get to talk about specific things with regard to grinder pumps in ordinance committee. But Mr. Bubba Harris did pass an introduction that would say that if a house is sold, it would have to be disclosed that a grinder pump is there and how much money has been spent on it, and what the maintenance requirements are for a grinder pump for sewer. If you're not sure what a grinder pump is, please don't Google it. You'll probably get a YouTube video you don't want to watch. A grinder pump does exactly what it says that it does. Okay, it's part of a sewer system. It's called a grinder pump. It does exactly what it sounds like it does, and leave it at that. The ordinance committee is going to be discussing some real strict rules on grinder pumps and when they are installed. A lot of this started because of a subdivision called Serene Acres, which is off of Juban Road. It's actually off of Wax Road, excuse me, which is off of Juban. And there was two individuals, Mr. Eric Harrell and Miss Jody Carter Hoffman, visited the parish council to talk with them about, well, we have these grinder pumps installed in our house. And as far as grinder pumps go, the mechanicals were fine with them if they were attached to the appropriate size home. These pumps are too small for those homes. The pipe that feeds them is also too small, and the pipe that drains them is too small. There's also conjecture that there's a problem with the force main with their subdivision. The problem that they both have, or specifically Mr. Harrell, who's done some digging on the paperwork, is that all of those specs were signed off on by the parish inspectors. So when those homes were built, and that was over 10 years ago. So there's a lot of moving parts on the grinder pump issue. There will be a lot of a lot of upcoming ordinances, or maybe just one giant ordinance that is dedicated to making sure that if a grinder pump and the lines that are installed are the appropriate size to service an appropriate size home. So there'll probably be tiers and levels based on home size, number of people, that sort of thing. What is interesting is that Parish Councilman Tracy Gerlinghouse brought up Walker ordinances. We posted those online along with Mr. Harris's proposal for the new grinder pumps and the ordinance that he wants to discuss in committee on how to be stricter on grinder pumps. You can check that out at www.livingstonparishnews.com/news. We are $5 a month online. If you're having trouble staying logged in, please give us a call. We also have an app that we send out push notifications. I just got a note to bring something back up. I hate to jump back, but this is about this is about the resolution and the issue with Premier Concrete. One of the things that came up, and we explained this in a previous show, was that Parish Council Attorney Chris Moody brought up that there are certain vested rights that are passed on to a homeowner if he's permitted. According to Mr. Talbert, that's just not the case in this situation. And he brings up case law that was upheld by the Fourth Circuit Court of Appeals in 2009 for several cases from New Orleans, wherein if a permit was falsely acquired or inappropriately issued, that did not vest rights because that permit was no good. So that was something that he brought up. I just got a little note in my email to bring that up, so I want to bring that up. Anyway, lots of other things. Like I said, the Premier Concrete dominated a lot of the meeting. And then a little bit of talk about sewer, and then after all that conversation, it did appear that people were just about ready to go. One last thing I did want to bring up, Arbor Walk, which is south of Walker, is getting a 5th filing. So that is coming. That was approved last night. At any rate, school starts today. Our guys are out and about. They are covering all sorts of school openings. There'll be pictures on Facebook. We've asked you to send your first day of school pictures to us. We'd appreciate that. We'll run a gallery online, and we'll get that going. We're also Southeastern football continues to run through camp, and Coach Shelfo is impressed with their improvement. They did get kind of a tough bid at the beginning of the season at Southland Media Days with a low seed in the Southland Conference, so they'll be operating from behind, lots to prove. Again, I am sorry for being late. We're going to check on traffic. Let's see if any of this rough traffic has cleared up. It's amazing. Once all those kids get dropped off, the traffic just disappears. It's actually relatively clear heading into Baton Rouge now here at 8:22 a.m. Some minor delays at the O'Neill exit heading west. Some delays heading into the 10-12 split, and some after that. 190 very clear. 64 heading into Central, pretty clear. 16 a little crowded as those folks from Watson start heading to work after dropping their kids off at school, but no heavy delays, just some minor delays. One more time around with the weather. It's now 93 degrees. It's gone up 5 degrees in the 30 minutes that we've done this show. 77 your low tonight. Small chance of rain on Sunday. Very little chance of rain tomorrow. Saturday will be a hot one this weekend, so be careful. We're into this last sort of the doldrums of summer. August heat. Football is coming, though. Again, my name is McHugh David, publisher and editor of the news. We appreciate you joining us this morning. One more time, I am sorry that I'm late, but we got it all settled. We came through here. We gave you who's qualified, and we talked about the big deals at the parish council last night. Well, at least the largest deals. There are plenty of small things that are important to individual people. We are on Twitter, Facebook, LinkedIn, Instagram, and YouTube. Check our other content that we post there. We put these shows as well as our long-form podcast at www.livingstonparishnews.com/podcast. We'd love for you to check them out. Again, we sat down with Mr. Jamie Seal of Quality Engineering yesterday. Did a long talk about drainage. That video will be up soon, but the audio is already ready at www.livingstonparishnews.com/podcast. Also, did a great deep dive on a lot of the issues that are going on in Mr. Garrett Graves' world. That audio is also ready. But the video takes a while. So both of those videos will come out either today or tomorrow. So you can watch them if you'd like, or you can take a listen. The edited audio is great. Once again, my name is McHugh David, publisher and editor of the news. We appreciate you joining us for this Friday morning show. We will be back with you this afternoon for the evening show. Thanks and have a great day.